I'm sick of following my dreams, man. I'm just going to ask where they're going and hook up with them later. This is FC3's Monkey Business, your one-stop shop for everything geeky, and everything can be geeky if you love it enough. Starring Tanya Metra, starring Billy DeTore, starring Dan Carmen, and also starring their inimitable guest, the guy who they have to deal with on a regular basis. That would be me. My name is Chris, and I am your host. And welcome to another podcast. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I had to look to the late great Mitch Hedberg for that one.
Oh, I love Mitch Hedberg.
He was freaking hilarious. He passed away, right?
Yeah, he did. He did. Drug overdose a bunch of years ago. And before that happened, he wound up having like his foot amputated from gangrene or something. And he had some issues, but he was a very funny guy. I still remember first time I saw him on Letterman. Yeah. I'd never heard of him. And by the end of his 7-minute set, I was his biggest fan. I hadn't laughed that hard in a long time. Do you know who he is, Dan?
I don't know.
He's almost
check him out. Stephen Wright. He's a Stephen
Wright. Yeah.
He's like a stoner Stephen Wright.
He just throw out these observations and just. But then he had, instead of Steven being so deadpan, Mitch was definitely like your stereotypical surfer dude.
I will check him out.
You should.
One of my favorite jokes from him has to do with does NASCAR have backseat drivers? Hey, how come you're always turning left? Why do you like Tide so much?
Tanya, how are you over there, hon?
Not too bad.
Yeah, you with us? You still there?
Yeah, I'm just listening because I don't know who that person was. So
I see. A comedian.
Yeah.
A stand-up comedian.
Yeah. So no, I'm good. I'm got to go back to Walmart today because the shorts that I bought for Riker for golf did not fit him. Both I got them.
Oh no!
Both size 34s and 36s. The 34s he couldn't button, and the 36s we could button, but one good breath or bend over, it would possibly pop. So gotta go back.
He's a super chunk. These are the things you gotta deal with.
It's all because of mostly because of COVID, and that we haven't been able to get out as much as previous, and he hasn't had a typical normal gym class in school year. They've just been doing workouts.
Right.
And there's only so many quote unquote workouts you can do before you're like, okay, I need to do something more active for gym class. And they're doing the best that they can, but I think that's also a contributing factor. So, so I got to go back to Walmart today and get that, but all the rest of the shorts that I bought fit. So, yay. Men's large.
Well, that's something.
That
works in your favor.
Yeah. So, I'm doing that and trying to figure out what else we're going to do with dinner for the steak. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I can show up. That would be nice. We're seeing Miss Juno went to the vet and spent a little while there yesterday. It's weird because they're still under all their COVID protocols. Billy, I don't know what vet you go to. Which vet?
Cats exclusively out in Pittsford.
Okay.
I go to Stone Ridge.
Yeah, Stone Ridge here as well. We've been going to Stone Ridge since we had Winston way back in the 80s. Which is funny, Dan, they actually still had Winston in their files.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's because I remember when I first got Juno and I wanted to bring her over for her introduction and catch up on her shots and whatnot. They said, okay, 89 Alameda. I said, that's my mom. She goes, oh, okay, so you had Winston. I said, oh my God. it's been a while, but yes.
Yes.
No, they're just capital people over there. Really amazing crew over there. And they always have really good vets. But anyway, we were there, and because of all the COVID protocols, they take her in, but I still out in the car hanging out.
Us too.
Yeah, still hanging out in the parking lot, which was nerve-wracking. You should have seen the look of betrayal on her face when she came out. And she just looked at me like, you left me alone with these people, really?
You're like,
But
sorry, baby, I couldn't do anything about it.
I know she doesn't care though.
if you ever have animals that you can't get in the car or don't travel well, there's a service called Doorbell Vet. They do house calls.
Oh, cool.
And before COVID, they came right in your house and all that. Now they have like a mobile unit that they bring out and park on the street or in your driveway and bring the animal in there to do stuff with. And Doorbell Vet was fantastic. But Pi needed to go to the real vet yesterday, so we went out to cats exclusively. But if you ever want to stay home with your pet, Doorbell Vet is a good way to go.
That's not bad. Good to know. Good to know. Well, she seems to be responding pretty well right now. She's napping on the floor, just chilling out, keeping my left foot warm, and we'll see how she responds. They gave me a probiotic powder to sprinkle on her food one time a day, and all the medicines, and then of course the worst thing is this child is such a picky eater, which is so weird for a dog to be a picky eater, right? I'm not used to that. So when I try to give her the flea and tick medicine, which is a once a month chewable, she wants nothing to do with it. I'm like, but it's a treat. She goes, I don't care.
My cats are the same way. I have to give Socks thyroid pills twice a day, and if I get some of those the pill pocket treats there. Put it in there. Wouldn't touch it. Go anywhere near it. I gave her 2 identical treats. One of them I stuck the pill in there. The other one didn't. Ate the one without the pill. I was like, how do you know the pill is even in there? And boy,
it's amazing and frustrating. I must say,
it is very frustrating. I have to shove it down her throat now. So,
yeah. Well, I've been getting used to at least the pill for her actual medicine to help with what's going on with her is small. So when I'm making her meal, she's getting little chunks of chicken. So I'll just kind of like do a quick incision, shove one into the chunk of chicken, put it at the top, and hope for the best. So I've had some luck there at least. But I think she's getting wise at this point, because it was funny this morning. She took a couple bites and then she looked at me with that betrayal look, like, what's going on here? You're being too excited about me eating. What's going on here? And then she went right back and wolfed everything down. I'm like, all right, see.
Meanwhile, the animals are eating better than us just so we can trick them into taking their medicine.
I made that joke with Juliana the other day, because when things were starting up with her, they were like, hey, put her on a bland diet. You have to, give her some rice, boil some chicken, boil some rice, no flavorings, nothing. I'm like, all right. So I came home from work for lunch. Excuse me. And I'm spending a half an hour making freaking fresh rice and boiling chicken and whatnot. And Jules comes home from for her morning runs, and I'm serving Juno her lunch there, and then I make myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? So because I needed to get back to work, and I'm like, my God, I just spent a half an hour making lunch for my dog so I could have a PB&J, man. That's just like what the hell?
That's funny.
Poor baby.
I know. She's lucky. She's cute. That's all I got to say.
Well, well, I was going to say it's rainy, but I'm like, you probably could have taken her out to Anne's house for the day.
No, not yet. She's I can't. No, and it's not even a giggle thing at the moment. That's just with what she's going through at the moment. Yeah. And she still is. She needs to be caught up on all of her other shots and whatnot, because they were only able to give her like the rabies update and things like that. So I still have to take her to the vet in a couple of weeks so I can get her ready for everything. Because I'm like, yeah, we'll go out to Aunt Anne's and run around the farm. They're like, not yet, no. And I'm like, okay. So,
she's like, but I want to chase chickens.
Yeah, I know, seriously. Teach chickens how to fly. It's a service she provides. So,
I'd like to thank Tanya right now for the use of her computer, which
you're welcome.
She's been giving me for the past bunch of weeks of podcasts, but I was able to use it this past Monday for a virtual job interview, and I got the job. So thank you, Tanya.
Nice.
And your good luck, Grogu computer.
And everyone picks on me for having lots of Grogu.
Yes, we do, and we continue to.
Yeah,
and we always will.
Our friend Mark wanted to know, with all the garden angels and statues that are in our front flower bed, why isn't there a Grogu one? I said, those ones aren't mine. All those angel and little child ones were all Nene's that she brought over when she sold her house. So I'm like, I haven't been able to find a child one, but if you can find me a child one, I would be more than happy to put it in my Hint, hint.
What is it?
She needs
you know,
a
like
child,
those garden gnomes or those garden statues that.
Oh, okay.
So if you can find me a Grogu one, I'm more than happy to put it in my
Grogu garden statue. Let's see.
I've already looked. I've already Amazoned it. I looked yesterday. So I see. I hear clicking. So Dan must be looking because Dan knows I already bought him a present.
I can neither confirm nor deny that we're looking into that at this time.
Yeah. I did hear someone's mouse click.
No, it may have been mine. I was also trying. It could have been all of us.
They're all looking. I've already tried to Amazon it.
Yeah, but have you tried Etsy?
No, I didn't try Etsy.
We have a lot of stuff on Etsy.
I don't know. I'm surfing Wormwood Gaming myself right now.
There's a Baby Yoda statue drinking.
I'm hearing that buzzing now, too.
Yeah, the buzzing's getting... 3D printed Star Wars Baby Yoda statue drinking from The Mandalorian.
Drinking.
Kits will require sanding, painting, assembly, and finishing. Oh, jeez.
Some assembly required.
Yeah. Okay. So this is not a finished one. It's something you have to finish yourself. But
I hear a lot of heavy breathing or scratching or something.
Now, Susan's walking up the stairs. So I don't know if...
That didn't sound like walking up the stairs.
Oh, okay.
Well, just think. In a couple of weeks, we'll all be fully vaccinated, and within a couple of weeks after that, we'll all be able to be in a studio together, or studio space at least, hanging out.
Then we'll have to figure what kind of technical issues we can have if we're all together.
Oh, lots.
Oh, I'm sure we can figure. Well, what's going to happen is that I'm going to be across the table from Tanya, making all sorts of weird ass faces and whatnot to get her to crack up. So. Because I have a lot to make up for, because it's been a long time since the four of us have all been together in the same place.
And now the one thing I'm worried about with my new job being in the Wegmans distribution center.
What's your
the hours? I don't know what my schedule is yet in terms of days and
we'll figure it out.
So, excuse me.
We will absolutely work around it. That won't be an issue.
I just know I have training on Monday the 19th and Tuesday the 20th. Orientation and training. So
now, is the distribution center on Brooks Ave?
Yep, that's the one.
The one that's
the big warehouse
airport.
Yep, exactly.
Anne said her friend Amy's husband George works there.
Oh, good. I'll look for a George and say,
and
do you know?
Jorge.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Jorge.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Or, George. Of the jungle.
Strong as he can be.
George of the jungle.
Oh, so Anne and I met for breakfast yesterday at Cracker Barrel. And then, so we walk into Cracker Barrel and we had to wait 40 minutes, whatever. It was a nice day, so I put my name in and then went and sat in the car, and then Anne showed up and we were just chatting to sit in the other. So we go in, we get seated, and then our waitress comes over. Her name is Ramona, and she starts talking, and we're like, is there a reason why we were put in this dark corner? Because it's as soon as you walk into the restaurant, the actual restaurant part, there was a long table and then a table against the wall by the kitchen, and that's where we were put. And it truly was in the corner, shadowy. And we're like, did they know? Did they know that we possibly are troublemakers? So they were kind of hiding us. We don't know. So that we were making that joke, and so our waitress comes over, introduces herself, things like that, starts talking, and she must have seen my Baby Yoda on my watch, because I had my Rogue and Gambit t-shirt on yesterday, and my backpack was on the chair, so you couldn't see that. So she's like, oh, I love your Baby Yoda. And Anne immediately flips her arm out to show her tattoo. And she's like, oh, wait, I think I've seen you two before. She's like, I remember the Baby Yodas. She's like, one of you two had a procedure? The last time Anne and I were at Cracker Barrel was in December, right after I had my colonoscopy. And she's like, and I said, yeah, it was me. It was for my colonoscopy. She goes, and you guys sat over there. And she pointed to the opposite side of the restaurant near the window, and that's exactly where we were sitting. And we just couldn't believe it. That we had the same waitress. And so, we just had a really good day, a really good meal, things like that. And she was talking about how she wants to raise chickens and blah, 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 blah. So Anne was talking to her about that and this, that, and the other thing. Well, she said, she's like, it's been a pleasure to serve you, blah, 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 blah. She's like, this is my last shift. She said it was her last shift ever. And we're like, really? She's like, nice. Yeah, she was going to law school. She was going to become a lawyer. So it was just really cool how she remembered those details from 4 months ago of where we were, what had happened, and that this, that, and the other thing. It was just really cool, and she was talking to us and things like that. So our meal came to $22. Actually decent for the amount of food that we had for breakfast.
I was about to say, that's pretty cheap for 2 people.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I'm like, I had like the pancake breakfast. So it had the 3 pancakes, the 2 eggs, the bacon, and got the eggs with all the fixins. So she got grits and turkey sausage, and we split the biscuits and gravy. There was like a ton of food on our table. We definitely could eat it all. So I pull out the cash for the meal, and so then I pull out money out of my wallet to throw down for tip. So I threw her 20, knowing that going to school and waitressing and things like that. And I'm like, well, just the fact that she remembered us from 4 months ago, really, like, it was really impressive and things like that. So I threw down a 20. So I'm like, okay, she gets 100% tip from whatever. Well, Anne reaches into her purse and pulls out another 20 and throws it down. There you go. So, and then we get up and leave. So for our $22 meal, our waitress got a $40 tip. So
can't argue that one.
And we're like, this is why we do it, is just because of the service and the remembering and just the interaction, just the customer service made it feel more normal. And it just was a great overall experience in the morning. So, and then Anne and I showed up to Home Kids and then went shopping. And I may or may not have bought something for Dan. I cannot confirm nor deny that there was something in my cart that had his name on it, that had Mickey.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
Yeah, he's like, why are you doing this? I'm like,
because he can.
Because we can. And she's like, look at the Mickey mug. Too bad there wasn't one that has the name Dan on it. And I happened to turn to my right, and there was one that said Daniel. I'm like, oh, you mean this one? So she's like, okay, we gotta get it. So we put that in her cart, and then she got some other things. We were going up front, and there were Minnie Mouse mugs. And she's like, oh, so and they were all upside down on the top shelf. So we were picking them up, looking at them, blah, 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 blah. Don't I find one that says Jessica? And Jessica's a Mickey Mouse fan too, because she's gone to Disney so many times. Not as many times probably as you, Dan, but she likes Disney. So
it's not possible. I mean, he's got time and experience on his side.
Well, I mean, I'm a newbie compared to a lot of people that go to Disney. So.
True. Yeah. So she's like, okay, I'll get something for my daughter. But so I'm like, okay.
I love how she says that so begrudgingly. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'll do something.
Oh, yeah, like, I just saw a yard sign. Yeah. No, because I saw it said Billy messaged whatever, and it was so quiet, and I'm like, oh wait, something happened to Billy. So just because I'm talking. This is about as much talking that you're going to get out of me today, considering I don't know very much about the Favreau Kennedy debate. So,
well, I think you'll be able to put your 2 cents in along the way. I'm not really.
And you're a good Googler. I've been reading.
I've Googled it, and it's sitting up in front of me right now.
Mm-hmm.
This jarring segue brought to you by Tanya Metro.
Did that help? Or do you want to talk to everybody else?
Well, that's fine. We're so, hey, it's like Dan and I said, demented and sad, but social.
Oh boy.
I'm going through my computer right here in the background because I think I'm just going to have to hose it down. I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that there's going to be some sort of factory reset happening today too while I'm doing everything else. Because it's ridiculous. There's so many things going wrong with the computer I haven't even had for a year yet.
I was gonna say, and didn't you clean out a lot of it and get
Yep.
and uninstall like a ton of programs anyway?
A ton of stuff.
Format
Yeah.
C colon.
I'm
that'll
thinking
fix
I'm thinking
everything.
something happened in one of the updates. Because I think this happened right around an update somewhere along the line.
Maybe you just need to put World of Warcraft back on.
No.
You didn't
Because
seem
then
to
it
have
would be
many
sitting there mocking me because there's $16 a month I just don't want to pay right now.
Format C colon fixes everything.
Yeah, it always does, doesn't it? I just got to think of I got a lot of materials I need to save to make sure that I don't lose forevermore because there's some stuff that's actually on the machine, so I want to save that to protect it.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah, that's the fun part. So I'll work on that. And Juno's kind of starting to pace around, so I think this would be a good time to take a break, so I could take her out real quick.
All right.
But when we get back, the big conversation we want to have today is a little armchair quarterbacking about what's going on behind the scenes of the Star Wars universe. There's to be sure that a lot of the information I've gotten is from YouTube videos. So, suspect information at best. As a matter of fact, a couple of the guys who I regularly watch their channels, I'll always make sure to say, look, I'm getting this from secondhand sources. I'm getting this, from hearsay. So you got to take everything I say with a grain of salt. But here's what we've collected and here's what we know. And there's a lot of politicking going on behind the scenes at the moment. And if it's to be believed, there's some interesting things happening. If it's not, there's still some interesting things we can talk about as well, because there's so differences in product in the past few years. And so let's just talk a little bit about what's going on. Not so much Star Wars, the story itself, but what might be happening behind the scenes. And we'll talk more about that when we get back from break. So, as we've talked about on several occasions over the years, Star Wars is an interesting entity these days. It's become so ingrained in the global, not just nerd culture or national consciousness. It's a global entertainment thing, right? And so, in my personal opinion, and I've espoused this on several occasions, it is not possible to make a perfect Star Wars movie, or it's very difficult to do it because you have so many people investing so many different emotions from so many different angles into this one property that no matter what you do to please this group of people over here, you're going to piss off the people over here. And, or you're going to kind of make the people over here indifferent and the people over here are going to love it, or you're just going to cock it up completely and nobody's going to like it. Now, Favreau and Filoni with The Mandalorian, especially the tail end of the recently distributed season 2 of The Mandalorian, managed to pull it off where they actually were able to please pretty much everybody in one go, which doesn't happen, but it was done subtle, and it was done simply, and it was done with a dose of fan service, but a healthy dose of respect to people who were still new to the franchise. And here we go. This conversation is going to be resplendent with spoilers if you haven't figured it out already. That new scent from the Mighty Monkey Corporation.
Spoilers.
So in the very last sequence of the very last episode, the season finale of Mandalorian season 2, Luke Skywalker, in all of his CGI glory, made an appearance. And just the simple appearance of this character doing what people always wanted the character to be doing resonated throughout all of the fandom. And I don't think anybody that I've talked to that disliked that moment in its delivery and its creation or its intent. So it's possible to do that. Now, this also set off a whole lot of behind the scenes things. And I have read some articles from reputable news, entertainment news reporters, but I've also been watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I've been watching a lot of fan service and whatnot. And then there's guys out there who, as I may have mentioned before, they have regular channels. They do regular Star Wars and pop culture entertainment commentary, and quite often they will say, "Look, I've got people in the field. I've got sources. I am also going to say I can't confirm a lot of this stuff, so you got to take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. Good. So they're being upfront about it. They're not like, hey, this is the truth of that you need to believe in. Unlike some news sources that will be like, here's something we completely made up and we're going to pass off as news, and you're going to believe it whether you like it or not. That happens, right? But these guys have always been very forthright about, hey, take it with a grain of salt. But the message has also been very consistent that the success of The Mandalorian has set up a rift at Lucasfilm. And this rift has created two camps. You have Kathleen Kennedy, who had taken over the reins of Lucasfilm from George Lucas when Disney bought it out. She was behind the creation of the sequel trilogy, which has been much maligned, even though I enjoyed most of it myself. I'm not sure, I see some of the weak spots in it. But if you sit back and look at all 9 Star Wars movies, you can find plenty of weak spots across all of them, I think. And I don't think they were meant to be Oscar-worthy, perfect movies. They were meant to be these serial adventures. This is what George Lucas always talked about. They were supposed to be reminiscent of the serial adventures he used to watch as a kid. The Buck Rogers and, all the stuff. You'd go to the movie theater and you'd see the 20-minute spot and move on, come back next week, see it again, or see something new. That was what he was trying to encapsulate. So these were never meant to be the saga of War and Peace, Chariots of Fire, Citizen Kane. It wasn't that level. It was meant to be good, solid fun. And people have kind of adopted it to be much more to them than that. So you have Kennedy, who is one camp, and hang on a second. We're getting. Are we having some issues technically at the moment?
I don't think so. Okay. Unless Dan. Did Dan go away?
I don't know. Daniel. Anyway, I'll continue on.
Okay.
All right. So moving on. So you have the Kennedy camp that was behind the sequel movies that were very much maligned. People were very much against them, and the popular opinion is that I've seen several where I'm like, hey, I liked this particular part. I know it was garbage. You shouldn't like it, and so there's a lot of toxicity there as well. But now we flip the script and we go over to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who have been behind such things as the Clone Wars animated series, Rebels animated series, Mandalorian, and several of the new Disney Plus series that are going to be coming out. It's clear to people that they have produced the product that folks are more likely to enjoy. And so that's kind of shifted things. And so if all of these rumor mongering and all this behind the scenes, hey, I know a thing that you don't know type stuff holds true, then what you're dealing with is, pardon the exaggeration of it all, but there's almost like a civil war going on at Lucasfilm to see what's going to happen. There's a lot of theory going on. And I don't know if you guys watched any of the videos or caught any of the articles that I was talking about. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. There's this one fella in particular who goes by the name of Mike Zero, and he has had a lot of very insightful things, and he says it with great confidence, right? So I think that's always kind of that's what throws me off guard is he says what he has quote unquote learned, and he says it with great. There's not a lot of over dramatization of it. It's like here's what I've learned. This is my analysis of it. Take it with a grain of salt. This is what I know, and he's always very matter of fact of it. It's not like, oh my God, the world is. He doesn't do that. So that's what's like, oh, maybe there's something to it. And I've been kind of poking around, and I talk to people, and I read things, but I wanted to kind of bring it up today. So that's the background, that's the foundation of what I wanted to talk about today. And I know that you guys are kind of fellow Star Wars fanatics. And so I just wanted to get your 2 cents in and what you thought. Like, do you see, for starters, like, do you see the difference in the quality between the sequel movies and the Disney Plus series that have been coming out? Do you see that?
The quality a little bit, but just more about the vibe, I guess. More about,
okay.
I don't necessarily, without knocking the movie trilogy or, the sequel trilogy, there's more of a sense of the fun in the TV shows, at least to me. So to me, it's not a sense of quality. It's just a more of a sense of
a different vibe,
lightheartedness in the TV shows to me.
Okay.
For me, it's more the consistency of the storytelling.
Yeah.
I mean, all the movies that they're done, they seem to be, there's not a plan ahead of time. They're just sort of they're doing it. It seems, and plus, with
Which
everyone,
makes and
different people doing different movies, you're getting different. They're going their own directions. There's not an
Yeah,
overall.
there's the different directors for the movies and stuff, or
Mhm.
writers have sort of led to varying qualities of product.
Mm-hmm. I also think that the sequel series set it up for failure. It set itself up for failure by creating the goal line that this is the moment we want to get to at the end of the trilogy, and then having to figure out how to get there and handle all of the subplots, all of the fan service they wanted to put in, and create the story, which I think felt backwards to me. They kind of like because they set the goal line too close to the starting point. I think so. I I know the point I want to make, but I'm having a hard time focalizing it at the
Are
moment.
you saying they padded the movies, or
They no, I think they chucked in too full. Like for
oh,
instance,
okay.
Rise of Skywalker it's a roller coaster. It does not let up. There's no break. There's no chance to breathe. There's no throwaway scenes that flow and add a little nice little kind of a light moment or anything like that. It is bam, 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 bam. Have we caught you off guard yet? Bam. Are you on your heels yet? Bam. Okay, now it's ended. Boom, done.
Like we said, that could have been 2 movies.
Really, it
Mhm.
could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, because what happens when you do that, and I've seen this in several franchises now, and even Game of Thrones, for instance, on HBO. Game of Thrones got to its last 2 seasons, and first of all, the seasons were truncated, so they weren't as the episodic count was lower, and then they tried to do all of this stuff in limited time, and so it really felt like a lot of things were thrown in there to try and just kind of like gloss it. Okay, we're getting to an ending. You're going to need this piece of information. Here is a 5-second scene that's going to give you some of the ending.
So
But
they're
it doesn't.
trying to tie it up in like a nice, neat little bow,
And
and they're
there, yeah,
still having raveled edges.
right, right, and lots of loose threads hanging out all over the place that make you go, but what, but hang on. So, like Dan said, the final movie could have been 2 easily. And I think, and this is my personal opinion, and I acknowledge ahead of time that there's going to be a certain level of closed-mindedness to it, and I apologize to people for that because I really do like being an open-minded, give everybody fair chance. Equality is all. I'm all in on that. I mean, there should be no barriers to anything, in my opinion. However, with that being said, I think there was a subtle political agenda. Now that I've been listening to a lot of these commentators, and I've gone back and I've watched the sequel movies myself again, just kind of looking at it, there was a political agenda. There was a message that was trying to be forced and injected into Star Wars, which never needed to happen, I don't think. I think the original trilogy had its own commentary about society, and it had its social commentary, and it had its kind of way of looking at things and teaching people without shoving it down your throat. It was laced in, it was very subtle, but it was also easy to pick up. Where with the prequel trilogy, they were more like, well, we want to show you how he became Darth Vader. So we're going to shove all of this stuff together to show you how this cute little kid who you're going to love. We want to make Darth Vader a sympathetic character, and so that happened. And now in the sequel trilogy, it's like, okay, we want to show you how we think society should be today, and we're going to force it down, and we're going to inject it into the story, and you're going to pick it up. And along the way, there was a lot of really uncomfortable moments. Not uncomfortable because it was like embarrassing or something like that, but uncomfortable as in like it almost feels like a piece of the puzzle was jammed in there and it didn't fit. It was like doing a jigsaw puzzle over at Tanya's house, and you had a piece from an entirely different puzzle, and you were trying to shove it in there and make it fit and cram it in there, and there was some cutting going on and some super glue going in there, and it didn't quite work. Am I alone in that thinking, or do you guys, now that I'm talking about it, are you guys picking up that vibe at all?
Well, I could tell there was more of a political bent in the sequel trilogy. They were trying to mirror current society and show, the similarities, I suppose.
Okay.
But like you said, that was also in the original trilogy. It was just, if you weren't looking for it, if you just wanted to have fun, that you could just take the movie that way too. If you wanted to look for a deeper meaning, it was there if you wanted, if you were looking for it, but it wasn't something that just stuck out. Does that make sense? Or?
It does. And Tanya, Dan, I mean, 2 cents in. Any thoughts at all? Maybe.
I don't. I'm one that doesn't necessarily look for like any of the deeper meanings while I'm watching the movie. So I'm like, I'm not going there to politicize or anything in regards to a movie. And so yeah, I see the difference between the movies and the TV series, but I can see like that same thing in regards to the movies and the TV series for the Marvel movies. Also, there's definitely a difference in how the movies were and the TV series is.
I mean, like in is it Last Jedi, where they had the casino with the rich people and abused animals and
that was
all
the
that.
middle one, I'm pretty sure. Yes, middle one.
So I mean, that was just a hammer over the head here, sort of comparing modern day society or putting modern day society into the Star Wars movie. To me, that was,
it felt awkward for the story.
Yeah. It felt like they had an agenda for that particular subplot.
Yeah, makes sense.
Whereas I'm wondering, my sort of takeaway, we're talking about the Kennedy versus Favreau Filoni, and it reaching sort of like fans voicing their opinions. Is this a case of similar to the fans saying, we want the Snyder Cut, we need the Snyder Cut, and giving the fans what they want, when studios don't always have to do what the fans want? Sometimes it's detrimental to always give the fans everything they think they want.
Yeah. Well, to that point, I would agree with you that studios never really listened to the fans all that much. They listened to the box office. And that's why we have 23 Halloween movies and 15 Freddy movies. And, they're going to dip back into that well over and over again. They didn't really care about the story, and they knew that you knew that they didn't care about the story, but they were just going to go ahead and throw the same spaghetti at the wall, and whatever stuck, great. If it didn't, no biggie, but sequels were never a thing until really like the 80s. And honestly, it's my personal opinion that Star Wars was the leader in creating sequelism and eventually prequelism, because prequels did not exist really at all. Maybe there was like an abnormality here or there, but prequels never existed until Phantom Menace came out. And now suddenly everybody wants to know the backstory of the heroes and the backstory of the characters. And that's when you start seeing all of like, here are all these stupid movies, but we're going to give you a prequel of that movie just so you can see the characters in action before this actually happened. And so stuff like that happened. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the funny thing is, sequels didn't necessarily exist. There was, back in the old days, like the Tarzan movies or whatever, they were just individual movies that didn't tie into each other. They were like just James a Bond. Series of movies.
Yeah, like James Bond movies.
Yep, exactly. You didn't need everything to tie into one storyline or everything to sort of reference everything else. Almost like the Batman TV show in a way. You never knew, like if the Joker was in one episode, the next season they didn't reference, the time Batman had to surf against the Joker. It was a completely different storyline.
Yeah.
And they never referenced anything that ever happened previously on the show.
But now everybody else does.
Yeah.
There's always this constant. Okay, so let me just recoalesce my thinking here then, because we were talking about the differences. Like we've talking about how modern storytelling has the arc that holds the whole story together. We see that in Doctor Who, we see that in Star Trek Discovery, Picard, There's Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision. There's these overall arcs that are holding the thing together, and it's a dramatic change from back in the day, as you were bringing up, Billy. These serials that Star Wars was originally inspired by. George Lucas was inspired by Buck Rogers and Lone Ranger and all that stuff, where it was, here is the event of the week, and then next week we're going to have another event of the week, and this one might have a cliffhanger, but it's going to be resolved in the first couple of minutes, and then we're going to go on with another separate event from the week. And like Star Trek the original series, it was, here's the nice, neat packaged 42 43 minute here's your episode for the day, and we're going to move on, and there's no reference to an episode before, there's no flow, there's no overwhelming arc. So you have, back in the day, episodes now being replaced by chapters in a story. And again, there was a point that I wanted to make, and I can't remember what it was. So that was the vibe that Star Wars was originally meant to have. And then in the prequel trilogy, suddenly there was like I was mentioning earlier in this conversation, there was a goal that had to be met. And then again, with the sequel trilogy, there was a goal that needed to be met. And I don't think that was the way the original trilogy was constructed. So we have that.
Mm-hmm.
And now
Now, my question is,
mm-hmm.
Back in the old days, as we're discussing, there was a saying where every comic book is someone's first comic book.
Right.
And does it make it more, nowadays, the way they do things in movies, comic books, TV shows, does it make it harder for people to jump in? And is that detrimental to people's enjoyment of things?
That makes a really valid point, because when you have these global franchises,
it makes it daunting for someone to jump in and find new fans.
I mean, there's a lot of people who try to join the Marvel universe now and find that they don't understand what's happening. Infinity War and Endgame, you put this one together. For a lot of people, Infinity War and Endgame was somebody's first exposure to the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, holy moly. I mean, talk about being dropped in the deep end with a concrete brick tied to your feet.
Yeah, they have to definitely go back and
watch 22 movies.
Right. And there's been people that have done that. I want to say my one of my coworkers, she had watched, I don't know which one, I don't know if it was Infinity War or Endgame or whatever. Now she's going back to start Civil War and Captain America and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting how things work. But getting back to the Kennedy, Favreau, Filoni thing,
yeah.
You have to also put, as of March 11th, I have that Screen Rant thing up, and I think Billy has looked at it. This is from March 11th. So this is, we were talking about that there was potentially rumors that Kennedy was going to be leaving or going to be fired or whatever. But Disney confirmed as of the beginning of March that she's not going anywhere as the president of Lucasfilm. She took the role on after Lucasfilm was acquired by Disney, personally selected by George Lucas himself, and she's overseen the franchise's resurgence over past several years. She's been a polarizing figure to the fan base, however, with some contingents blaming her for what is seen as a downward turn. You have to look that the rumors that Kennedy would soon be ousted also put forward Favreau and Filoni, the respective creators of The Mandalorian and Star Wars Clone Wars, as possible replacements as Lucasfilm president. Both Favreau and Filoni have made undeniably important contributions to the franchise, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're prime candidates for Kennedy's role. Where Favreau and Filoni are storytellers, a skill that's been put to excellent use as showrunners on their various Star Wars shows, Kennedy is a producer by trade. And her impressive track record in that role stretches back far before her time at Lucasfilm, including work on the major blockbusters like E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, and Sixth Sense. So we have to look that they're coming from two different backgrounds.
Right. One's the business, one's the story.
Right.
The
so
content.
Therefore, yeah, then the movies and the TV shows are going to be different based on your lens that you are creating them through. One's creating them through a storyteller, one's creating them through a producer role. So Lucasfilm has certainly made some missteps in its recent Star Wars project, but overall the Disney era has been a renaissance for the franchise. Critical reviews for the entire sequel trilogy far exceeded those of the prequels, despite claims from some fans that the more recent films are inferior. Star Wars The Last Jedi, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker were polarizing upon release, but Force Awakens and Rogue One were widely praised. And the recent wave of Disney Plus content like The Mandalorian and The Clone Wars Season 7 has been arguably the strongest period for Star Wars since The Empire Strikes Back. And it's Kennedy who has overseen that.
Right.
So she's overseeing it, but it doesn't necessarily mean get rid of her. So
right, she should be overseeing it, but the storytelling is where I see was lacking. I mean, the storytelling, the consistency of the story, especially between the movies and everything, that's where I thought it was lacking, the storytelling. So she might be running the company well, but you need someone who is consistently telling the story throughout the whole story arc there.
And that was also a critique of George Lucas. Like he kind of had the story, but his writing sucked.
Well, that's the thing. George Lucas writing dialogue should never happen ever again. That's
so. I mean, you have to go to find where people's strengths are, and kind of do it that way. But then also give people a chance and say, okay, I tried this. This isn't cut out for me. Blah, 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 blah.
So can I ask who made the decision to put Favreau and Filoni in charge of The Mandalorian and the other TV shows? Was that Kathleen Kennedy also? So I guess in a way, I almost don't understand why she's having trouble finding people for the movie. Not having trouble finding people for the movies, but finding the right people, I guess.
Well, the message here's what's caught my attention, and I've been watching this conversation from the armchair quarterback standpoint, and this is what got me going, and this is what fueled my introduction at the beginning of this section. If and again, like all the commentators who I've drawn this information from, a lot of what I'm saying is hearsay. It's rumor. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. I am speaking based on what I have exposed myself to. All right. And so with that being said, Kathleen Kennedy, as the story, quote unquote, story goes, is she was given Filoni because Filoni was already working on Star Wars Clone Wars, which was still a Lucasfilm non-Disney production when it was first started. It was one of the last holdovers from George Lucas owning Lucasfilm. And so she inherited Filoni, and was encouraged to keep him going. And, she kind of humored that. And that's why Clone Wars has been able to continue on. It's been constructed to be. But if you notice in the animated series version of it, Clone Wars, it stopped after season 5, season 6, somewhere in that area. It just stopped dead, done. It was one of those shows that was canceled without a proper ending, and it was fan service again. Oh, fan service! Holy crap! That was where I wanted to go earlier.
And we circle back around to where we wanted.
I'm writing that down on a piece of paper so I can finish that thought, because this is what I need to start doing during podcasting: is writing notes when my brain is working. All right. So fan service kind of pushed things around, and she saw the value in it, or somebody saw the value in it and said, hey, let's let them off the chain and make a 7. So Clone Wars season 7 came out. It helped tie Revenge of the Sith into that. It helped create and answer some continuity issues that had occurred over a couple of years of this, that, and the other thing. So there was a lot going on there, and Filoni kind of cemented himself as a good, solid Star Wars storyteller. And people responded to that. And Favreau had been involved because he'd been helping a lot. He'd been helping out a lot with Clone Wars. He had made some contributions behind the scenes to a lot of different Star Wars projects, but also he had his success because of MCU. Now MCU and Star Wars are under the same umbrella, the Mouse House, right? Disney is now holding it. They've got their cadre of people, and they're going to mix and match. Kevin Feige, the Grand Master of the MCU, has been helping them figure out some stuff to do with Star Wars, and vice versa. Star Wars people are starting to help out. Hey, we can help you with MCU. We're seeing the benefits. There's pros and cons to Disney being the entertainment juggernaut that it is, and that's a podcast in and of itself down the road. But there is also pros to that, where you have these massively talented, massively successful people all working together to tell stories together. And that's the bottom line. And Dan's reference to it, we've all hinted at it. The storytelling is the big thing, right? And then you have the bean counters on board that want to make sure that telling the great story is going to make them a shit ton of money. Then that's the honest fact of it, right? So what happened is that Kennedy kind of inherited Filoni, and then through just this whole sequence of events, this is all the behind the scenes stuff that I'm taking it with a grain of salt, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. When Filoni became successful and Mandalorian started setting the groundwork for things, people started seeing the hints of the Star Wars they always wanted again, as opposed to the sequel trilogy that we've gone back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Did we like it? Well, yeah, there was a lot of it we liked. Was there things we didn't like? Yes, there are things we didn't like. Um, I think universally, the four of us, we all enjoyed the sequel series for the most part. Yes, we saw all the flaws. We acknowledged that they were not perfect movies. There were issues, and some of them we've talked about already today. Um, but then you're now the camps. Well, I'm almost under the impression that the fans are what started most of this, because you have a very toxic fan base in the diehard Star Wars people, and they're anti sequel series but pro TV series. And I think that's where a lot of this kind of spawned, and people are digging and they're thinking and they're talking and they're hypothesizing and they're theorizing and rumor mongering, and this is where this rift has transpired. But before, let me write that down. I'm going to write rift. Okay. Okay. And then this is the things I have to do. My God, I'm 50. My brain is 97. But I want to circle back around, because fan service, that was the point I was trying to make minutes upon minutes ago. Fan service did not push the narrative. People would keep making more of the same, or what they thought was more of the same, because they thought it would make them money, but they really didn't give that tie together. But recently, within the past couple of years, you see the beginning of the paradigm shift. I mean, I'm going to bring up the Sonic movie, which in and of itself, definitely not an Oscar-worthy movie, right? Not the best movie. It was fun. I did spend a couple of bucks to watch it, and I told people why I was going to do that, because the studio released a trailer of the initial version of the animation, and the fan base went, "What the hell is this? Sonic looks weird." And that became the topic of conversation for weeks. That they have this story, but nobody was paying attention to the premise of the story. They weren't paying attention to the actors. They were only paying attention to how terrible the animation of the Sonic character looked. And what did that studio do? They turned around, they pulled the movie before it got released, and they spent millions of dollars to redo the animation of that character, because they knew that the fans were not going to respond well to it. They bowed to fan pressure. That's the point I wanted to make. And that, I think, for me, I mean, there might be other instances of it that were very much on a much more smaller scale, okay? But for me, this was the first time I'd ever seen anything like it at that level, where it was that public, that dramatic, that costly, and it turned around and they released a new product, and people were like, "Yeah, that's the character we were looking for. Great. Well done. Thank you for..." And a lot of people were like, "Hey, studio, thank you for doing that." And that's why I rented the movie instead of finding it online or anything like that. And I only watched maybe half of it because it was ridiculous, but I wanted to at least support the decision-making process that studio made to listen to the fans. And I think that was the beginning of something else. And it led into the Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut the Snyder Cut did not exist. It didn't exist. As much as people wanted it to, as much as people, the rumor mongering said it did, right? We can all safely say that the Snyder Cut did not exist, because Snyder even basically made it clear through his own actions that there was no such thing. As soon as they greenlit it, then the Snyder Cut came into fruition, because Snyder was able to make it happen. Okay, cool. But the fans willed it into existence. And so we're going to start seeing more of that, where the bean counters are going to be like, the fans really want this thing. We're going to allow that to influence our decision-making process.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a double-edged sword. Honestly, I think it's going to be a double-edged sword, because it's a good thing. Because, and Billy, I hear you want to jump in, so I'm going to make that happen.
Yeah, no, finish what you're talking about.
So, and seriously, I need Prevagen as a sponsor for the podcast. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I think what you're going to start seeing is hopefully a balancing act, where the studios start listening to the fans more, and they start creating stories that the fans are asking for, but they don't go to the extreme where they're just creating fan service and it becomes this big messy, well, the fans wanted this, but it has no coherent story, right? That's the pendulum that I'm worried is now starting to swing, where it used to be that the producers were telling the storytellers, do this thing, and whoever will like it, and whoever will hate it won't, will pay us money to see it anyway. And so the pendulum is going to start swinging right now, and I don't want it to go all the way to fan service only. Oh, they want Luke Skywalker and his clone twin brother John, and now they're going to be creating the new Jedi Order, and they'll both turn to the dark, and then suddenly that movie is created, and it's a terrible movie. And this is where we are right now, I think. But Billy, what do you want?
I did a couple quick thoughts, and this one just occurred to me in terms of fan service. As a wrestling fan, wrestling fans always think they know better than Vince McMahon or whoever's running the organizations. So it's gotten to the point where actually sometimes they listen, but wrestling organizations will stick by their guns. And I was just thinking about that because WrestleMania was tonight. So I've been watching that. But, now I just lost my train of thought. I just lost my own train. Oh, no.
There's physical pain involved in that. There's actual physical pain.
I figured it out, actually. The two movies we haven't talked about, Rogue One and Solo.
Yeah.
Now, Rogue One was, I think, pretty critically acclaimed, and also fans liked it, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's true. Rogue One did have a definite pop.
Solo, not so much, although I think history is going to be kinder to Solo in the future. Because I rewatched it recently, and I enjoyed it when I saw it at the theater, and I still liked it, and think people were overreacting negatively to Solo. Now, what happens to those one-shot movies in this Kennedy versus Favreau Filoni world, where you had this whole sort of planned series of movies that didn't have to do with the Skywalker trilogy, nineology or whatever it is.
Yeah,
they were their own stories. Are those still going to exist? The Rogue Ones and Solos of the movie world?
It depends on what day of the week it is, really. I mean, Rian Johnson was given a trilogy, and apparently he's working on. No, he's not working on. Oh, no, it was taken away from. No, he's got it back. No, wait a minute, he is working on it. No, he's written 3 of them already, but he's got a 4th one in mind.
Ron Howard just walked into the room.
Yeah, Ron Howard just walked into the room, and now he's got a trilogy of his own. Wait, what? Here's an interesting piece of trivia, though. Let me just throw this out there. Ron Howard was a gateway drug for that particular family, because he helped bring Solo to the screen. And his daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, was a director of one of the episodes of Mandalorian. Actually, she's done several episodes of Mandalorian. She's in the Favreau Filoni writing camp. So,
and one other tie-in, didn't George Lucas direct American Graffiti, Ron Howard's first movie?
Yes. So tell me that isn't like, there's a lineage there. There's an absolute lineage there. Yeah. So that's kind of neat that kind of comes all around a circle here. And I think we took a quick break there inadvertently for a moment while I tried to recollect my thoughts. And we talked about the sources of a lot of this. And like I said, a lot of this is rumor. A lot of this is just hearsay and fan service and whatnot going on in the background. And it could be, it can all start kind of becoming conspiracy theory, to be honest. Right? Let's just be honest. The two voices that I hear the most, or the three voices I hear the most talking about this rift between Kennedy and Filoni, are Overlord DVD on YouTube, the channel. This guy who dresses up as like a Buck Rogers villain from the 1960s and does voice changer, and he talks about all these pop culture things and all this rumor mongering that he hears, and my sources, but you have no idea who the guy is, and if his source could be like, some dude in his basement at his mom's house playing World of Warcraft for 20 hours a day. Who knows absolutely nothing. They're just theory crafting. And the other guy who I'd mentioned earlier in my conversation, Mike Zero, who could be just making crap up off the top of his head. The third source being WeGotThisCovered.com. And I will go on record saying that WeGotThisCovered.com is probably one of the worst sources of pop culture information out there, because they literally, you could just see it. If you read the articles on WeGotThisCovered.com and then go anywhere else or watch the movies they reference, there's no possible way there's anything more than just fan fiction coming out of this particular office. So whoever's behind, and again, my personal opinion, share it or deny it if you see fit. But in my opinion, these three guys can be you can wipe them out and come up with your own stuff and still be close to the truth. So but it created enough of a conversation in my own head that I had to ask, do you guys see this? Here's the gist of my conversation. It's not, do you agree with me there's a problem here? It's, do you agree that there might be enough to talk about the fact that there might be something here? Or do you see issues between these two products that would lend you to wonder what's going on? That's the conversation I want to have. This is the nitty-gritty kind of like investigation that I'd love to be able to do, is just kind of figure out what really is going on. Are these people getting along famously and just putting on airs, or they really do hate each other? We can talk about Gina Carano. What was it worth firing her over? Yes, the things that she said and the behavior she was exhibiting was definitely the antithesis of being an open-minded member of society, right? But was it worth firing her over? And there's some people who are saying, well, the Cara Dune character was so intrinsic and so needed. Really? Was it that intrinsic and that needed to the Mandalorian storyline? Star Wars has millions and billions of planets.
In terms of Cara Dune, recast if she's intrinsic. Darren was the second most important character on Bewitched, and they found a new Darren.
Thank you. Game of Thrones. You had several characters that were played by multiple people over the course of the 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, and nobody raised an eyebrow over it. All right, this guy is so and so. Well, now he is. Well, okay, but what happened to this guy? It doesn't matter. The actor changed, but the character's the same. Oh, okay, well, fine.
And that's been happening in soap operas forever. I grew up where my mom and sister watched soap operas in the afternoon, and every once in a while, the part of Blake Rockwell will now be played by Stone Castaway.
And you nailed such great, wonderful soap opera names too.
Uh-huh. So recasting has always been a thing.
Yeah.
And if in terms of firing Gina Carano, you may agree with it, you may not agree with it, but workplaces have the right to get rid of people. It's a free world, but it's a free world for the people making the show too.
Yeah.
To do what they feel is best for their product.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, we don't have the true benefit of hindsight yet. We're in the middle of it right now. Maybe 5, 10 years from now, we're going to be able to look back at this whole thing with new information, with stuff that's actually been published by, you know, Screen Rant or comicbook.com, who they have more reputable sports sources. Maybe like Entertainment Tonight will have done an expose, and these guys are going to definitely, they're going to find things out. You never know; it might show up in the business column of the Wall Street Journal saying, "Hey, look, this was the business end of things in the Disney Corporation. These were the bad decisions they made, and here's things that are going to be for the health of the company." Stuff like that may pop out, and we may.
Kathleen Kennedy and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, they may not like each other. They may not hate each other. They just happen to work at the same place and deal with each other on a day-to-day basis. There may not be bad blood. They may not be friends. They're just coworkers, somewhere in between.
They don't have to like each other.
Yeah. They just all want to make money.
And we want you, who are currently at home listening to this meandering conversation, to tell us what you think. Tell us what you think about what might be going on, or what you think should happen, and and what you would want to see, and how are things broken, and if so, how would you fix them? Stuff like that. These are
more Baby Yoda.
I was just going to say that.
That's how you can fix it. You can send Baby Yoda pictures to Tanya at fc3roc.org.
It's the Baby Yoda Variety Hour.
That's it. She shows up with the ghost of Bob Hope. And
that's how you can fix it. More Baby Yoda. Tell me I'm wrong.
I wouldn't dare. I just wouldn't dare. It's not
a cooking show. It's Grogu-licious.
Today we have a special guest. We're doing Louisiana style frog legs, and on board with Grogu.
Oh, there you go.
Special guest chef Grogu.
Yay!
Don't have him and Kermit the Frog together, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. It's an entire episode of Grogu chasing Kermit around.
It's a new version of the Odd Couple.
Kermit could actually get away unless
Here
Grogu uses the Force.
Here we go. It's a remake of the original Muppet movie. And the old guy who runs the chain restaurant is the chicken is actually going to be Grogu, and not some old guy in a Colonel Sanders knockoff.
That's how we can make sure that Star Wars is nice and happy.
That's it. All right. Well, you know what? It's certainly going to be an adventure. That's the nice thing about watching this stuff from the cheap seats, is that our decision-making process doesn't actually have any effect on what they do. So we get to watch their vision unfold regardless of what the hell we say, right? We could be like, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau should make an entire series about Bosk, the bounty hunter. And they won't do that, but we'll enjoy what they do anyway. That's the
thing. Is there a movie on the horizon being planned, or because we know there's TV shows? But
I know of.
Is there anything going on in the movie world?
At this, like we were saying earlier, that the Rian Johnson was given a trilogy, right? But at the moment, apparently that trilogy is off. So at this stage, I don't know of any Star Wars movies, like big screen events, happening in the near future. So everything right now is Disney Plus series. So your guess is as good as mine there of what's going to happen next. I mean, does it become the ultimate TV franchise, the streaming franchise at this point is what I would want to know, is essentially what's going to happen. So, but we'll all find out together, and we will talk about it. We will armchair quarterback the hell out of anything we hear about. I did a whole Nerd World News when they had release day, and back in December when they had their shareholders meeting, and they're like, okay, here's all the products that we're working on right now, and they were all streaming services, TV series. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have a question of the week. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, and all points in between. We love you guys. We hope you're doing well. So yeah, that was entertaining.
painful in spots.
Oh man, I'm telling you, and that's the thing. When my brain locks down and loses its train of thought, it actually is physically painful. It's like I can feel this. I can feel this like dam in my head. Like the thoughts are behind it. You can't have them. Ha 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 ha. Fuck.
So there's a chance Dan will have this edited down to a nice tight 11 minutes.
Yes, that'll be great. Yes, absolutely. If you weed out all of the meandering around, we have about a 13-minute podcast today. It'll be awesome.
That's funny.
So Daniel,
Yes.
it's time for the list.
Okay, the list is ready.
Okay. Number 301.
301. If your 5-year-old self suddenly found themselves inhabiting your current body, what would your 5-year-old self do first?
5-year-old.
My 5-year-old self was suddenly in my 50-year-old self.
Yes.
Okay.
Your 5-year-old self suddenly found themselves inhabiting your current body. What would your 5-year-old self do first?
Oh my God, I can't remember my 5-year-old self.
Break down and cry.
How did I get so
Well,
old?
no. Why does everything hurt? Why does my brain hurt? Why do my knees hurt? Why is the floor so far away? What's going on here? Mommy.
Shock.
Yeah, it's just pure shock. Just pure shock. I mean, yes, I have cool Legos in my office right now. So if my 5-year-old self suddenly inhabited my 50-year-old self right now, they'd be, oh, Legos to play with. Okay, cool.
Go ahead, Billy.
No, I was going to say, I have a similar version where I'd look at my DVD collection and go, hey, I still like cartoons.
Comic books and cartoons, I'm good.
Like, how do they work, though? I don't know what these are.
Yeah. I see Looney Tunes. What do I do with these?
I was 5 in 1975.
Yeah.
Okay, what existed in 1975? Gas crisis?
I don't know. I was 3.
Regular gas cars? No Star Wars.
Yeah.
I know.
Trek
We would say,
rerun.
what's this?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like the movie Big and things like that, where you're suddenly inhabiting your, their older self. Type of thing.
I'd walk to the nearest store and buy a gallon of chocolate pudding.
But I have no cash, and I have no idea what the plastic cards in my wallet are for. As a matter of fact, at 5 years old, I didn't even know what a wallet was. I don't think. Yeah, I'd probably just break down and cry in confusion, which is what I do. To be fair, it's what I do on a regular basis anyway, so it fits. It really kind of works.
You kind of are your 5-year-old self. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I am, just with more Legos and alcohol. So,
oh boy,
that's a hell of a question.
Yeah, I'm like looking. I would be astonished because there's Legos up on my desk right now where I'm sitting, and there's like no sense of like Barbie dolls or anything in here. It's like all odd stuff, and I think I would be scared.
Well, I have a plush on my desk, so that would fit in with a 5-year-old.
There you go. Just start making.
I've got a lot of Grogu's, so
I got a lot of toys, a lot of Legos and stuff, and a lot of medicines for all my cancers. They'll love that.
Yeah.
I got like a little pharmacy on my desk because they get like 7 different drugs here. So
Jesus.
And I think we would be a little concerned considering we wouldn't be able to read.
Yeah,
well, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I was reading at 5. Just not really well, but I was.
Try reading Dan's meds.
Yeah, try reading prochloroperazine.
Methyl ethyl.
He's 50 and he still can't read it.
Ondansetron, kind of thing. Oh, these things make noise, so you shake them up. Yeah. You can shake the bottles.
I think one thing in all of our favors is that we all still like toys.
Yeah.
There you go.
And have them around our house.
Basically,
we would look. It's like, what is this this TV screen that's curved, and what's this typewriter that whatever? Like, we would have like no clue.
Giant TV on my wall. Woo! Yeah.
How do you turn it on? Where's the dial?
Yeah.
Where's the knob?
Basically.
Wait, where's the shag carpeting that you have to drag yourself through?
You get shocked and you touch something.
Yes, when you touch the TV. Well, I mean, I could go outside. There's a bike in the garage, so I'd be able to ride a bike.
Yeah, but yeah, there's that.
That's what 5 is a weird age, though.
It is a weird
because
age.
you can't do much. You're just sort of getting your feet under you.
If we said our 10-year-old self,
10-year-old would, yeah.
I don't want to think about my 10-year-old
I would still
self
be
being in
alone.
this body.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us would just be terrified and scared, but happy that there was still toys around.
Just start crying. Why? Why does everything hurt?
And I'm already past you.
That's okay.
Yes.
We're all young at heart, right?
Sure.
Yes.
Try.
Yeah. All right. So, Dan, please, let's do a mercy killing.
Okay.
All right. I'm just going to go hit it.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's best of FC3's Monkey
That's
Business.
it right there. So, hey, Dan.
Yeah, Chris.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
Hit it. Because this has been FC3's Monkey Business, a product of the Mighty Monkey Corporation, purveyors and producers of the Flower City Comic Con, coming at you September 25th and 26th of 2021 at the Total Sports Experience in Gates. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us wherever we go, and we will lead you to where the entertainment is. You guys have a great week. Have a safe week, and we will talk to you again next week.
Dun dun.
Dun-dun-dun.
Good night.